Kia ora koutou katoa and welcome along to another episode of Beyond the Hustle. My name is Anton and I am one of the proud owners of Hustle Group. We're a whānau-owned business that's obsessed with creating exceptional hospitality experiences throughout our various venues here in Ōtautahi. And this podcast is an opportunity for me to go beyond all of that and have really cool conversations with awesome human beings. And today I had the great privilege of sitting down with Di Foster, who is such a cool person to speak with. As somebody who's beaten cancer twice, she shared with me amazing insights about how to get the very most out of life and this thing that we call the human experience. This was an awesome conversation, super insightful, super inspirational, and one that you don't want to miss. So join me and let's get into it. Thank you, Di, for making time in your very busy schedule to be here and join me on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it's great to have you. Tell me, what do I need to know about you and your past in order to understand who Di Foster is? Let's start there.
I'm just a little 8-year-old, just trying to do the best she can. I think my 8-year-old comes everywhere with me and she's always just trying to do the best she can. She doesn't think that she's anything special, but anything that is special about her, she's happy to double down on and make the most of. She is literally the girl next door. And there's a couple of things that she knows about herself. She knows that there's very few things that she decides, but once she does, she is dedicated to them with every cell in her body. And she's very, very particular about, I'm very particular about the words that I say, both to you and to myself. And I am just here for a fully human experience and all that that means to me. So I don't strive to be happy. I just strive to be present and to have a very human experience. And I think that the things that some of the things that have happened in my past, they will always define me, but not for the reasons that you think. Not for the reasons that, you know, I've had 2 cancer diagnoses, but it's not the cards that I was dealt that will define me, but it's the way that I play the game. And so that's the thing about my past that brings me here today, is just simply the way that I choose to play the game and the unbelievable patience that I have. As I said, there's only probably maybe 3 or 5 things that I've decided in life, and I'm as patient as hell. And my family will tell you that I have more bum glue than anybody else. Bum glue? Yep. As in, you know how to stay in one place for a long period of time? And be patient. And be patient and just work hard. For the place that I've got to now, I said to my dad the other day, I do not know anybody else that would have been as patient with themselves and with the world as I have been. Patience is massive. I'm not very patient. I'm trying very hard to be more patient. I think it was Jeff Bezos, or someone like that anyway. And he said people tend to grossly overestimate what they can do in a year. And underestimate what they can do in 10. In a decade. Yeah. And I think that's been one of my problems over the years, is I get bored. Yeah. And I just do something different. Yeah. The shiny object. Yeah. Alex Hormozy calls it the woman in the red dress, as in the Matrix. Yeah. I am that guy. Yeah. And I'm conscious now of how that has not served me. Yeah. So many times in the past, and so I'm trying really hard to be patient. But how has it served you? Well, I guess it's provided me with lots of opportunities to just give something a go. So I've learned how to fail, because lots of those things, in fact, most of those things just haven't worked out. But some of them have, and some of the things that have worked out have been the things that I really didn't expect would work out. Yeah. So I guess that's the upside. But usually the cost to change is, you know, we get to this stage in our business, for example, we go, things aren't working and we need to do something different.
But actually, the cost to change something is huge.
There's always a price to pay.
Oh, yeah.
There's always a price to pay.
When in fact, if you actually were just a bit more patient and
That's
you just
it.
refined what you were already doing, usually,
Fine-tuning.
fine-tuning,
Not so bad.
usually it works out better. I'm learning that.
I think that our greatest strength is also our greatest weakness. So when you say, like, I'm not patient, there will be some amazing strengths to that. And when you let it go too far, there is always a price to pay, and it will be like your greatest weakness.
It's interesting, eh?
Everything that is your greatest strength is your greatest weakness. My mum told me a couple of things when I was growing up. Di, for God's sake, shut up just for 2 seconds. And the second thing she'd tell me is stop bossing everyone around. I like to ring her on the weekly and say, Mum, do you want to know how much money I made this week by not shutting up and bossing everyone around? Because my greatest strength are my greatest weaknesses.
Yeah, it's probably true of all of us.
100%.
Because they become your character traits.
Yes.
Eh? And I've been thinking a lot about this. I've only just learned what the word amorphous means, but amorphous language, like you talked about patience before.
What does amorphous mean?
Well, I think it's like we have these terms and we often refer to them as character traits. So we'll say, for example, that person's got a really positive attitude or that person's really patient.
Yeah.
And so we use this amorphous language, these terms, these general terms, and everyone kind of just goes along with it. But we assume that because these are character traits that they can't be learned. So we go, Di is a really bossy person and she doesn't stop talking. Or she's a really patient person and she's really caring. And then you go, well, that's just an attitude thing. You're just born with that. But in actual fact, it's not. Yeah, you're shaking your head, which is cool because I'm with you. You can totally learn this stuff. But we use these terms like patience, but no one will hardly ever do we stop to actually go, what is patience? Like, tell me what you mean by that. And one of the things I absolutely love about Alex Hormozy, I mentioned it before, is he's so good at breaking down amorphous language, words like patience and positive attitude and resilience, and he chunks them down into actions. And he goes, so patience is, I can't remember the way he defines it, but it's like patience is your ability to stay busy while the other thing happens.
I love that so much. I love that.
And when you break it down like that, you kind of go, okay, so in order for me to be a patient person, I just have to get really, really good at keeping myself busy while my index fund grows.
That's it. And also, I think in this day and age, we tend to be quite evangelistic about things. So we tend to say, well, I'm keto, or I'm hustle culture, or I'm this, or I'm that. And I just love the word and. I am the most patient person. And in certain areas of my life, I am bloody hopeless. I am so impatient. I talk a lot and you'll hardly get a word out of me at night.
Interesting.
After 5 o'clock when I go home and I'm in my house, in my sanctuary, very few words come out of me.
Why do you think that is? Do you put on a different version of Di during the day, or are you just tired? Like, why is it that you got this?
Because I'm naturally an introvert and I have extroverted qualities and I have learned how to look after myself. So I am front-facing during the day and I need me at night. I need to just recharge myself. So it's not that I think what you see is what you get, because, I can easily, I just switch between, it's fluid. It's not this, don't talk to me. It's just this natural state of being one thing and then allowing myself to be the other.
I love that because I have lots of different versions of Anton as well.
Yeah.
Like the version that when I'm on camera, I'm thinking a little bit more before I speak, probably.
Yeah.
Subconsciously. And the version that Jess gets to see at home when it's just us is different to the version that Jess gets to see when I'm around the kids.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people mistake different versions of the same person as almost like hypocritical, or is that an act? Why are you different in private than you are on camera or in public? And it's like, I think that's okay. Like, there's lots of different versions of me. Depending on the context, you're going to get a different Anton that turns up.
Seth Godin says that we do not need our authentic version to turn up to work. We need our professional version of ourselves to turn up to work.
Interesting.
We do not need people to turn up to work in their pajamas because that's how they authentically.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we want their professional version. It doesn't mean it's not them. It just means that in this way, this is what we require in a work setting. This is how we present ourselves in a work setting. So I really like that. I like the fact that I can be different. Like on stage, a lot of people would say I'm the most positive person they'd ever meet. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm not. I'm a realist that just happens to believe in miracles. I do not go around going, everything's fine, everything's dandy, everything's positive.
Yeah.
That is not where the learnings are. The learnings are in what am I really afraid of? What is it there to tell me? I don't believe in feeling the fear and doing it anyway. I believe in feeling the fear and just asking it what it's there to teach me. And is it valid? Because usually, if I was to be on the top of a cliff and every bone in my body and every cell in my body I'm afraid of falling, that is very valid.
Totally.
So why would we not, do I want to be here? No, I don't, because the payoff's not good enough. It's the same as, like when, I did, and you asked before about my past, and, I had I'm only probably starting to unwind it now, and I've never really talked about it before. Actually, I've never talked about it before. 15 years ago, pretty much within the last month, 15 years ago, I was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And I've never talked about the trauma of that. I've never talked about the amazing skills that I used to get through that and the amazing skills that I used to be able to play the game. I've never talked much about the other side of it. So I was diagnosed with terminal cancer. I was given a life expectancy of no more than a year. I had a fully collapsed lung. I had secondary breast cancer. There was no medical options. Palliative care chemo was the only thing they could offer me. And I decided to remove myself from the medical system because if you know anything about palliative care chemo, it's not going to give you any more life extension. They might have been able to reduce my symptoms, which comes at a price. It comes at a very, very high price. The fourth thing down on the side effect list of palliative care chemo was death. It was kind of the thing that I was trying to avoid at that time.
Yeah.
And so that trauma, I was so good at being present and so good at telling myself a story that was beneficial to the future version of myself. It's only now, 15 years later, that I'm giving myself a little bit of space to acknowledge how traumatic that was and how hard it was.
I'm really interested to know, looking back now, hard to think about it at the time, but looking back 15 years ago, that trauma that you're referring to, do you think it was the way that news delivered to you? Is that what kicked off the trauma? Or what was it that was so traumatic, looking back on it?
See, I will not buy into that.
Yeah, no, I'm interested to know.
Yeah, there is no way you'll ever hear me say, when they said that, I felt this.
Okay.
This is my life. I take responsibility for it. If they were delivering me news, that's up to me to be in a state to receive it in the best way I can. Now, that might sound really harsh, but I am not giving my responsibility and my life over to anybody else. I feel very, very clearly about that. And I hear quite often things like people will say, oh, they gave me a year to live. My life is not theirs to give. With their very best educated guest, they gave me an indication of what they thought I might be in for. But that's not, I suppose I have a little bit of a skill where I'm able to push the distance between us. So energetically I can force that gap. So when somebody tells me something like that, I wasn't sitting there open with them piling stuff on me. Yep. I was just quietly, just at a safe distance where I can hear it and then I can choose my response.
Okay.
So, I believe really firmly that it might not be our fault. So it might not be my fault that I was in that situation, that I had cancer for the second time. I was only 38. But it is my responsibility. And by that what I mean, it is my ability to respond. It's not my fault, but it's my responsibility, how I respond, and taking radical responsibility for where I'm at in my life. It's nobody else's. Even if it's not my fault, it's still my responsibility.
So then the trauma, I love that, by the way, because it's just taking control, which is great. Because as soon as you put it in someone else's hands, how vulnerable is that?
And I really dislike the word control.
Okay.
Because to me...
What should I have said, or what would you have said?
I would have said surrender.
Okay.
Because control implies, yes, I'm taking responsibility for how I respond, mm-hmm. and I am taking control of that. You know, I'm not reacting, and I'm not falling into ingrained behaviours. I'm literally just got that space, that split second where I get to choose
how you respond,
how I respond, not react, not buckle to ingrained behaviours, but just that millisecond of a breath where I get to go, this funny little oncologist that's telling me I've only got a year to live, that's not his fault. This is my life. This is my responsibility. Now what am I going to do with the next year of my life?
So the trauma that you spoke about, what are you referring to exactly?
I reckon that I had just met the love of my life. I had just met Steve. I'd moved to Christchurch, and we both, I don't know if I grieved for that being taken away from me, if you know what I mean. Like, it wasn't taken away from me ultimately, but at the time it was just that, you know, you're in that bubble and you absolutely love your life and you're like, shit, we're only going to get 2 years.
Yeah.
I've just met this man that as soon as I met him, I wanted to walk beside him for the rest of my life. And I'm only going to get 2 years with him. And I was 36 years old. I was 38 when I was diagnosed. So I met him when I was 36. It felt like we'd been ripped off.
Did that make you angry?
No.
Do you get angry?
No.
How do you deal with those emotions? And I'm asking personally because I'm at a stage, I feel a lot of anger towards a lot of things that just aren't working out the way I want, and taking responsibility and going, I have to make the changes in order to get the things that I want. But the frustration, initially I feel frustrated and I go, right, let's try some stuff. And if it doesn't work, I go to anger.
Wow.
You would never see it. No one sees it. It's an internal thing, which is probably not healthy either.
No, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay, but I mean that feeling ripped off. If not anger, how do you deal with that? What were you feeling?
Pragmatic.
Okay.
Very, very, very pragmatic. What is the thing that I wanted then? If you how you said you're 36, right? So
I think so. I'm 35. I'm about to be 36.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
There or thereabouts.
Thereabouts. Young as fuck.
Yeah. I didn't feel like it, but I am. I totally. Yep.
Yep. So, you know, I hadn't had children.
Yep.
I'd just met the love of my life. I'd previously been with a partner that I had chosen to walk away from. I had always been very serious my whole life, and ultimately I just wanted to be loved. So my answer is pragmatic, because the one thing that I wanted in that situation was one more day. Not one more year, not to get rid of cancer. I just wanted one more day. Each day, I just wanted another 365 days. Each day, I just wanted tomorrow. And so let's be really pragmatic about this. I wouldn't say that I'm the most positive person, but I would say I'm one of the most pragmatic. So very simply, see, I know what I want. Essentially, we're bringing it right down to the core, not sort of like the very essence of life. I understood. I just wanted to be here. It's not that complicated. So let's be really pragmatic about this. Is feeling anger going to help?
Probably not.
Definitely not. Is feeling anger going to provide an environment for my innate body to heal?
No.
What is going to help?
I would say, pragmatically, what you put into your body
Yes.
that will definitely play
Yep.
a big role.
Yep.
And I feel like, but I have no science to back this up, that being positive or at least being
Yep.
optimistic
Yep.
about things.
Knowing that it's possible. Okay.
Yeah, believing that something is possible.
Yep.
I feel like those things would serve me better than being angry.
Yep.
Or sad.
Yep. But, I think sad's okay. I think angry's okay. So here's what I'd say. Being present is what became pragmatically really important.
Okay.
So if I was angry, I'm allowed to be angry.
Mm-hmm.
But what you resist will persist. So if I tried not to be angry, then anger becomes more. So when I was like, I feel ripped off, I'd just feel it. Right. If I felt sad, just feel it. Feel all of the things. As we said before about a really human experience. Increasing your positive emotions is really important and decreasing your negative emotions. So I went through everything in my life, forgave people, forgave myself, and retold my entire life story so that it served the future version of myself.
What do you mean by that?
So events happen in our life,
yep,
and we tell ourselves a story about them. So I was diagnosed with terminal cancer at 38. I could tell you about how hard that is. I could tell you about how, the asshole of an oncologist, and I could tell you about the GP that I spent 12 months trying to get a diagnosis because they wouldn't listen to me. I could tell you about how I had chest infection after chest infection and I couldn't get a diagnosis, and I could tell you that it was all the medical profession's fault. That will never, ever come out of my mouth because it is not helpful. Mm. It is my responsibility, my health. So I tell myself a story that is beneficial to the future version of myself.
Okay.
So constantly I tell myself stories about, what has happened in my life, and I just slightly changed the meaning of the story.
Your interpretation.
Yeah, because that's all it is. I'm not changing the facts, the events, but I'm changing the way I feel about it and what it means.
When you talk about the human experience, are you talking about just feeling things as they come up in the moment, not suppressing them?
Yeah.
And just letting whatever you're feeling, let it happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You talk about control, but I talk about surrender. I believe in something greater than myself, and I don't believe that I have an understanding of what that is or what it should be. So my job is to just know what I know now and be in the moment now. Maybe, there's a book that I read once, and it was like, my job is to shine my light. It's the universe's job to decide how bright it gets shone. So, when you fall in love with the work and you fall in love with your life, your job's done. It doesn't matter whether anyone else notices or not.
Right.
I've figured out, I coach people. I have the most amazing client list. Like, pinch me now. It blows my mind where I've got to, blows my mind. And somewhere inside of me, I want to go and make coffee because I could make the same impact. Because I'd get to see more people every day, and I could just quietly do what I do just by doing it. It's not what we do, it's how we do it. But I'm not in control. I don't go out now thinking I need to change the world. I just need to be the change in the world within myself.
So you talked about your client list.
Yeah.
How do you normally describe to people what it is that you do?
So I'm a business coach to accidental business owners.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about accidental business owners, and I'm really keen to unpack, what do you mean? What does an accidental business owner look like?
It's somebody that's incredibly good at their craft, or it can be an accidental business leader. So it's somebody that's very, very good at their craft, and they've accidentally, they weren't like me at 13 that went, I know exactly what I want to do with my life, and I love business, and I've been talking about business with my dad since I was 13 years old. It's not me. It's somebody that got really, really into the craft, got really, really good at what they do. Sometimes coaches are accidental business owners because they're really, really good coaches, but they haven't thought about the business aspect of it.
Right.
That is not me. I always think about the business aspect of it. I always understand the ecosystem of the business, and I'm really, really into the coaching and the speaking and that part of it. Yep. But there's another part that I'm really into. So accidental business owners or business leaders are very, very good at their craft, and they've got to the top of the pile,
Yep.
and then thought, shit, I've got a business or
Yep.
I've got a leadership role.
Gotcha.
And there's something in them that they haven't been around the language of business. They haven't been around the ecosystem of business. They haven't been watching what people do in business and how they do it.
They're just technically very good at what they do.
Very, very good at what they do.
Right. And then they find themselves in a position where now I'm in business and I don't know how the mechanics of a business work necessarily.
That's exactly right. And they don't necessarily understand money mindset, and they don't necessarily understand the fact that the story that they're telling themselves from their upbringing or their 20s or their 30s is literally the thing that's stopping them from getting what they want.
Tell me more about that.
Well, I think we tell ourselves stories.
Yep.
We simply just tell ourselves stories, and we tell them so often to ourselves that we start to believe them.
I am this way.
Yeah. I get angry.
Yeah.
I am impatient.
Yeah.
I guarantee that there are so many aspects of your life that you're as patient as hell.
Mm.
So every time someone says, I am always this way, I'm like, well, no, you're not.
I'm the type of person who insert whatever. At
times in this area of my life, I can see that I show utter impatience and it's not serving me.
Mm.
So I'm choosing to step back from that. But here's the thing around, a lot of what we do now, and I have an aversion to some words. Control would be one of them.
Sorry for using it.
No, I think it's fascinating because I think it's not that it's a problem. It's just that I never ever use, we never say never ever. I very rarely use the word control because I'm not interested in it. Because I believe that I'm really into people setting goals and doing all that. Actually, I'm not. I get them to do a 10,000-day exercise. And what that is in 10,000 days, what do you want to be doing? What do you want to have done? What do you want to be feeling? And what financial resources do you need in order to be living that life? That to me is a North Star exercise. It is not a goal exercise.
What's the difference?
A huge difference. When you get really clear on what's important to you, then we draw that bag and make sure that you're living that life now. So I can guarantee, because you're not special, I can guarantee I can almost tell you what yours is.
Oh, tell me.
The first thing off the list, well, I want to be here. I want to be moving well. I want to be healthy.
Yes.
Before anything else, that is what you'll tell me.
Yep, I agree.
Second thing is, I want to have an amazing relationship with my partner and my children.
Yep.
Because I know if one of your children weren't speaking to you, you would go to the ends of the earth to fix that.
Nailed it.
The next thing you're going to tell me is I want to have made amazing memories with my family and my friends. And I still want to be doing that.
Yep.
That's really important to me. Now, just those three things, chances are you might be because I follow you, but chances are 2 years ago, those might not have been priorities that you had in your today. Chances are you might have been prioritizing other things. But when we realise that being here and moving and being healthy is the most important thing, we start to come back to day one and going, how am I actually living today? What are my habits? What are my non-negotiables? Am I, drinking beersies every night? Is that fulfilling what it is that I really, really want?
Yeah.
That's your North Star. That's what's really important to you. Now, if you're not living that on a daily basis, you're going to have a problem.
And so that's the difference between a goal is something that I'm working towards in the future, whereas what you're talking about is bringing it forward and going, well, if that's where I want to end up, if that's the North Star, then what are the things I'm doing right now that are serving or not serving that? Yeah.
So in goals, we tend to get a little bit more tangible on, like I want to make this amount of money this year, I want to grow this business, or I want to do that.
Yeah.
But if alongside that, we're not doing our non-negotiables, which is looking after ourselves, looking after our relationships, making sure our children are being brought up in a way that's true to our family values, then what's the point of the other stuff?
Yeah.
But quite often we get distracted with the other stuff because it's shiny. It's a red dress.
Yeah, I can relate. You talked earlier about your dad and talking to him as a 13-year-old, and knowing from a very young age I was going to be a business person.
Yep.
That's quite rare. I would say to have, a lot of people that I talk to don't grow up in an environment where money is discussed, business is discussed. That's the environment that we have at home because of just the life that we live. And I happen to have children who are interested in talking about it, some more than others. So I can relate to that. But how did you, I'm interested to know what your childhood, what do those conversations look like as a 13-year-old talking to dad about business?
Well, it started when I was about 10, and my dad coached us for competitive roller skating. So, we were speed skaters, and I represented New Zealand, when I was 13.
You're full of surprises.
I'm full of surprises. And Dad gave me 2 poems. It's all in the state of mind and don't quit. Because he could see in me that I was very, I was like a flip of a coin. With one thought, I could go from exceptionally good results to exceptionally bad. Like literally, I'm very sharp in that way, both really good and both really bad.
Yeah.
So he gave me those 2 poems, but then as time went on, what I realised, actually, I was at my first year at school, high school, and I did social studies, and it was like first year at high school, term 2, week 3, period 4, and we did a unit on accounting.
Okay.
And so I'm undiagnosed dyslexic, and so earlier that day I'd been in remedial reading classes, and then I go to this class and it's accounting. And for me, it was like the first time someone had spoken English to me.
Accounting was?
Yep.
Right.
2 things I loved, or 2 things that I was better at than things that I was really shit at.
Yes.
I'm not suggesting I was good at them, but I was better at them. And that was business and understanding business and numbers. So
the dyslexia, undiagnosed or not, didn't have an effect on the numbers?
If I read numbers out loud, I'll flip them round. But mainly in reading, writing, and reading aloud.
But the numbers,
spelling.
You were sharp.
I understood them better. And I think this is the important thing, is that I wouldn't say I was great at them, but I always had a very growth-orientated mindset. And so once I realised I was a little bit good at something, I didn't compare myself to anyone else. I just went, of all the skills I don't have, this is a skill I seem to have. So we'll just keep working on that.
It's coming a bit more natural.
Yep, that's it.
So let's lean into it.
Let's lean into that. So I didn't lean into things that I wasn't very good at.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I know what I'm terrible at, and some things I just have to go and get better at. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that I suck at, and I go, so I can probably do without that. I enjoy these things better, so let me spend my time and energy here.
And I think we always need to make sure we get to a place where we can employ enough people around us that can substitute those things that we're just not quite so natural.
Yeah. If I could, I would have a full-time person filling out forms for me. That's how much I hate forms.
Yeah, I literally lose the will to live.
Do you?
Oh my God.
Some people love it.
No, it's way too much detail for us.
Oh, I hate it so much.
I hate it so much.
Like I'll put a form off for a week.
Yeah, same. And procrastinate on it. And then when I do it, it's like, oh, it wasn't that bad. It's just I lost the will to live when I did it.
Oh, that's so funny. I thought I was the only one.
No, definitely not. So, so conversations with my dad started with the poems, started around how we think, and then it went into business. And then when I came home and said to my dad, I'm going to go to university and get an accounting degree, he just looked at me. There's a special look that fathers have for their daughters that are like, oh Lord, how am I going to manage her expectations in life, because that's never going to happen.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm 53, so this is back in the day. And my grandfather was a very bright man with beautiful handwriting and not dyslexic, and he couldn't get an accounting degree, so how the hell was I going to? And no one in my family had been to university. And my older brother and my younger sister, super bright, super academically bright. And my dad's just like, of all the kids, that is not you, Diane.
Did he say it?
He had a look on his face.
Right. And you just knew.
I just looked.
He did not approve of this decision.
It wasn't an approve.
Didn't want to encourage you.
He wanted to manage my expectations. He didn't want to see me really upset that I couldn't do something. And so it was funny because when I announced it at the dinner table, he's sitting down the end and he literally choked on his food and it kind of spat out.
Oh, no.
And everyone else is watching the food and I'm watching my dad's face.
Yeah.
And I thought...
He doesn't think I can do it.
He doesn't think I can do it. And it never once entered my head that I should prove myself to him. It was only, It was just what I wanted. It was one of those things that I decided in my heart that I was going to do, come hell or high water. And so the next morning I got up at 6 o'clock and I started studying, and I've never stopped.
And you got your accounting because you went in, you were an accountant, weren't you? Before you came? No?
No, I got an accounting degree and always knew when I was about 18, I realised that I wanted to, I got it firmer in my head that I was never ever going to be an accountant. Now, this is the story that we tell ourselves. The story that I told myself was, I'm capable of getting an accounting degree. I'm not bright enough to be an accountant or to get the professional qualification, so the profs.
Yep.
Now, to be honest, I was probably right.
Really?
Yeah. That would have been undiagnosed dyslexic. That was next level. That was not numbers. That was tax and other stuff. And I still,
still struggle with that stuff. Reading part of it. It's
not the thing that interests me because tax a specialist, and I like numbers for business.
Yep.
I'm interested in the levers that change the numbers, because it's to do with business.
Yeah.
Somebody else can tell me what the tech stuff is.
Yeah.
So the conversations with Dad, when I came home and I said I was going to get an accounting degree, even though he had that look, he still quietly said to me, I will teach you everything about practical business and you can teach me everything about the books.
Okay.
And I said, okay. So we made a deal. So even though he had that look, he never ever said it. He never was ever discouraged or towards me. And when I was 15 and I got what was back in the day school cert, and I passed everything, he stopped off on the way home in his cycling gear and bought me a bunch of flowers. And it was the joke, full lycra back in the day when you didn't really seen in lycra. So, on one hand, he had that look, but on the other hand, he was my greatest cheerleader.
Yeah, how cool.
And still is.
Really?
Yep.
That's good.
Yeah, we've never stopped those conversations.
How cool. Where's the special relationship?
Yeah, my dad would say that we're soulmates, and I would probably describe us as he is my very best teacher and he's my best student. And he would describe me as the same. I've been his very best student and his very best teacher.
That's special. What are some of the common misconceptions or mindsets that people have about money in your experience that we need to shift or break?
I think the biggest thing is, when we talk about that 10,000 days, is how much money do we need, to retire?
Because 10,000 days, how many years is that?
27.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's a long way to think.
And not so much when you're 53. Maybe when you're 35, but not so much when you're 53.
Okay, fair enough. Good call.
There's a big difference.
Yeah.
So it's more around, where do I want to be heading, all that sort of stuff. So sometimes people have this really, really small figure and I'm like, oh, you're a bit delusional. And other times they have this really big figure and I'm like, well, what are you doing but more like, I don't care if they want it, but it's like, what are you doing to get it?
Yeah.
And it's just sort of the reality.
Yeah.
It's
your expectations, what you're doing, they're not
That's
aligned.
it. They're not aligned.
That's
it.
Do you? What are some of the beliefs do you think that we have as a society around money? Because I find money, and you and I have talked about this in the past, people get really antsy when you start talking about money. People don't like it.
No.
It makes them uncomfortable.
Yep.
We have this weird kind of tall poppy thing going on in New Zealand, and anyone who wants to go and get $10 million or $100 million, everyone goes, oh, no, it's not how we do things.
Yeah.
I don't think it serves us very well at all.
No.
Because I feel like we just bury our head in the sand and go, it'll all be all right.
Yep.
KiwiSaver.
Yep.
But what do you, I'm so, wow. Oh, okay. Well, we won't get into KiwiSaver. But, what are some of the, what could we change in Aotearoa about how we talk about and how we think about money?
Well, first of all, money is, my biggest one is that somehow that money's evil or money's bad. So what I would say about money is it's just a magnifier. It's just like fame. It's just like so many other things. It is just a magnifier. It's like being exceptionally beautiful. Any of those sort of extreme things, they're magnifiers. If you're an asshole before you have money, you'll just be a bigger asshole after you have it.
It's a rich asshole.
Yeah, you're just bigger and you've got more money to do it with, so you're just a proper asshole. If you're generous before you have money, then I believe you'll be generous afterwards.
So why do we where does the idea of money is evil? Why are we so afraid of money and talking about it?
I think because we make it out to be something that it's not. It's just a form of energy exchange. So I think that if we come back to business, I think the one thing that people miss, especially around accidental business owners, because they haven't thought about it a lot, and quite often they're earning a lot of money, but they don't sort of understand how it works. And so it's the more value you offer, the more money that you earn.
Yes.
So I think if people focus on the value and the service and what they do, then the money will flow.
100%.
But instead we focus on the money like it means something. But even then I think that like it's entirely up to people what they spend their money on. Although, with my clients, I'm really interested in what they do with their money because I'm not actually interested in I'm not too interested in some of the bullshit things that people do with money, some of the show things they do with money. And one thing that has been profound for me in the work that I do is some of my highest income clients you would never know. They just do unsexy businesses, but by God, do they do them well. And it is so cool to see. They're not the most famous, but man, they have a polished ecosystem of a business and they understand the levers of their business and they provide exceptional value for their clients.
Yeah, I often have reflected in the past about those unsexy businesses and the ones that, if you want a business, I just look around. Everything in here was built by a business. Like everything, the table, the paper, the ink on the paper, like everything came from a business. And so many of them, the cup, so many of them are just not sexy. Like whoever makes our takeaway cups at the airport is making very good money from us. As long as they understand those business levers, because we buy a lot of takeaway cups.
Yeah.
Very unsexy.
Very unsexy. Cleaning businesses. Very unsexy. One of the wealthiest guys I know.
Really?
Very unsexy business. So many unsexy businesses. So I came from a very sexy business. I came from the rag trade. So clothing, fashion, all of that. Very sexy, bugger all money made in that high profile designer section. We were always considered the dregs because we were commercial, we did production, but, the boys back in their day, so my dad and my two uncles did very well before tariffs were pulled off, from China. And so they did well and then they invested that money into property. Which is what did them well. So I'm always super interested with my clients is to say, do you actually have a business or do you have a cash flow? Or in my example, as a coach and a speaker, I simply have a practice. I have to make good money while I can and I need to do something with it because the day I stop working is the day I stop earning money.
Yeah, gotcha.
So when I hear other coaches say, in my business, I'm like, you don't have a business, you have a practice.
Yeah.
You need to be very careful of the difference.
A well-paying job.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But if you stop working, I think the key is what you just said. If I stop working, the money flow stops. Yeah.
That's cool.
So make the most of it right now, but do something really good with it so that when I do stop working, cash still flows.
Exactly. So I don't expect my practice to pay for my retirement. I'm putting my money somewhere else to pay for that.
Before we jumped on camera, had a wee discussion about, you just used the word retirement, but it almost feels like you're not retiring.
No. My husband wants to.
But, listening to you talk about earlier just wanting one more day, there must have been a time where you thought, this is never going to happen. Like, you felt ripped off because you just met the love of your life and you felt like the time that you had left with him was being taken away. And here you are, 15 years later.
But back then, I just focused on the day that I did have with him.
Yes.
I just focused on today. It was like every morning I woke up and I was like, one eye open, am I going to die today? And I'd hear a whisper, no, get your ass out of bed, off you go.
Is that honestly what happened? You would lie in bed.
Every morning.
Open your eyes and go.
One eye.
Cool.
I'd go, am I going to die today? So let me go back for 2 seconds.
Yeah, please.
When I was diagnosed and I was sitting with the funny little oncologist, my mum would tell you this is a miracle. The miracle is that I listened. I shut up long enough to listen. So my mum would tell you, I literally cannot wait to get up every morning just to hear what I've got to say.
Is that what she says about you?
Yeah. And she's not wrong. I think Jack Nicholson said it, the golfer, you know. God, I can't wait to get up every morning to hear what I've got to say.
I love that.
And my mum's like, that is you, Di. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I say some great shit. You know, like, I love me. I love me.
Yeah.
I get to spend 24/7 with me. There is nobody in the world that I would sooner spend time with than me, except for one person, my 96-year-old self. She is so cool. She is the coolest version of me. Right. So my mum will tell you that I can't wait to get up every morning just to hear what I've got to say, because there's some outstanding shit that comes out of this mouth. And so I'm sitting with this oncologist and I'm listening to my own heart, not to him. And I hear three things. I hear, be happy. Yep. Di, if you've only got 365 days left, for God's sake, be happy. Now, really quickly that turned into be present, because we're not just meant to be happy. Sometimes we're sad, sometimes we're angry, and it's okay. Yep. So be present. The second thing was, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. So go natural. Mm-hmm. They're offering you palliative care chemo and it will kill you. I just knew that with every cell in my body that it was going to kill me. And I thought that if I died in 365 days and I'd had chemo, I would be angry with myself. Where if I died in 365 days and I hadn't had chemo, I would die with peace in my heart. And that's what I wanted. Mm-hmm. And the third thing I heard was be grateful, which I'm pretty sure at the time I snorted out loud because I thought, what the hell do I have to be grateful for? Yeah. But I just was dedicated to those three things, living my life for the next 365 days with those three things at the foremost in the way that I lived. Those were the three things that were really important. So in the morning I'd wake up and I'd open one eye and I'd be like, am I going to die today? And this little voice in my heart would go, no, gamble, get out of bed, because that was my maiden name. And so I'd get out of bed and I'd get on with the day. Yeah. But before I did that, I would just practice gratitude. Mm. So 75% of my lungs have got high levels of activity in them. One of my lungs is fully collapsed, and there's 25% of my lungs that are holding it all together. Really? That are doing an exceptionally good job. So in this moment, you have a choice. Mm. You can focus on the 75%, or you can focus on the 25%, and you can be so grateful for that 25%, and you can suggest, just quietly, that they might want to take over a little bit more, and tomorrow it might be 26. Yeah. And you encourage that part of you that is working with love and acceptance and surrender, because you don't have any fucking control. Mm. But you encourage it, and you encourage this innateness within you, and you encourage this feeling that you want to live with every cell in your body. And what you tell yourself in bed, just before you get out of bed in the morning, is that you remind yourself that there's miraculous healings happening all the time. Mm. But you don't demand it of yourself, because that feels too big. Like, it feels like if I had had a goal, it would have been like, well, maybe I could live to 5 years. But see, I always reckon our biggest problem often is that we put a ceiling on ourselves. So that's why I love North Star, because it's expensive and it's beautiful, where goals tend to be tight and a little bit rigid. Mm. And quite often I think you can't dream big enough. I could have never dreamed that my body would innately heal with no medical intervention. And I would be sitting here 15 years later with a 13-year-old son and no medical issues. Yeah, that's amazing, yeah. You know, like, I've taken a couple of Panadol. Yeah, we all in the last 15 years. Wow. You know, like, that's pretty much it. It's unreal. You know, I've taken, do you know what I mean? So it's like, what do those doctors say about that? Do they marvel as well, or do they go, this happens? No, they say you don't have cancer, you're not allowed to come into oncology. What do you mean? Well, because I removed myself from the medical system. Yes. And I've had some tests, and it shows that my body has innately healed with no medical intervention. You're only allowed an appointment in oncology if you have cancer. So right. I'm not invited to go and talk to them. I'm not asked. They must be interested to know. Apparently not. That blows my mind. Blows my mind. So, 15 years later, mm-hmm. Do you feel like that season of your life, because I've heard you talk about, I've got a cancer story. Mm-hmm. It's a bloody good story. Mm. It's not me. Like, it's part of what I did. Yep. But, like, I am so much more. Do you feel like that
part of that chapter's been written, and it's there. It will always be there. But now you're entering this kind of new season of your life.
There's this thing that comes up in me where it's like I will never let go of that story. I'll always hold on to it with a string because I don't want to be arrogant enough to say that's done. There's nothing inside of me that's arrogant.
Yeah.
Like I've been brought to my knees a couple of times and I'll never fully get up in the best possible way. In the best possible way. I will live my life fully. And I'm as humble as anything because I understand the fragility of life. And I understand that most things that we're striving for and most things that we want aren't important. But I understand that eating good food and laughing with my family and giving my husband shit every day and telling him the other day, mate, you are punching. Like, would you look at this?
You are such an overachiever.
Yeah, like you are doing so well. And he just laughs at me quietly.
I love that.
It's the best.
I love that.
You know, so it's like I've got these really big intentions and it doesn't matter. I understand that that's just a game I'm choosing to play. None of it actually matters. The only thing that matters is how I feel about myself and how, like when I look in the mirror, the thoughts that go through my head. And I can honestly say that I am very open to anybody reading my thoughts because, you know, I say some great shit to myself and I'm very honest with myself. Because this is the thing, is that I just love this word and.
Yeah.
I am my greatest critic and I am my best cheerleader. Because what is the point of waiting for anyone else to cheerlead you? Like, what is the point of me sitting around going, well, someone else is going to come along and tell me I'm doing a good job. I might as well just do it for myself. So I do. Just get stuck in there. Good girl, Di. Keep going.
Do you think
good
we
job.
do that? Do you think we wait? You're probably right. We wait for people to come along and pat us on the back, eh?
We're waiting for our dad to tell us we've done a good job. We're waiting for our mum to give us approval. Whatever you are looking for, give to yourself. As soon as someone comes in and says, like, this is what I want, and this is the whole North Star exercise, give that to yourself now.
Just do it.
Don't wait for 27 years to look after your body. That's not how we do it. Don't wait for your dad to, you know, like if your dad's never given you a compliment in your life and you're 50 and you're still waiting for him to give you a compliment, you are barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah, it's not coming.
It's not coming. Give it to yourself. And the shit that happens when you give that stuff to yourself, it happens. The thing that you're looking for happens. People say to me, I want a relationship. You know, I want a life partner. And my first question is, what do you want from it? Well, I want to feel loved. Do you love yourself? No. Right. Go give yourself that.
Start there.
Start there. Like, I just believe that we're constantly looking for other people to provide that stuff for us. And that is none of my business what anyone else thinks of me. It's none of my business. It is my business what I think of me. And you have to be your harshest critic and your very best cheerleader. Well, I think you do. I think that's the very best.
Yeah, I heard someone talk about success, and you know, we put these parameters or these things in place to go, when I get there, I'll be successful or I'll feel successful. But I heard someone, I can't actually remember who it was, but it was someone who was really successful, had done some cool things in their life, and they just said, you're a success the moment you just decide you're a success. Like, you can just say, right now, if I just tell myself I'm successful.
See, I would go a little bit, tell me, do you want to be successful?
Of course I do.
Why?
Well, again, getting back to this amorphous language, because success, my understanding of what success is all positive.
Okay.
Right?
What does it mean to you?
So are you asking for a definition of what success is?
Well, no, just for you.
Yeah, for me.
How will you know if you're successful? I want to know what boxes I'm going to have to tick to be successful for you.
I don't have a good answer, which is terrible. And this is what I was talking about before with this amorphous language. I don't think it's
terrible, but I think that therefore you're chasing something that you can never have. And that to me would be slight insanity.
So, okay, fair enough. Good call. So I think there are things that I want to be able to do.
Okay, tell me what they are.
So I know, well, there's a long list, but one of them, I'll feel really, really good if I can create a living arrangement.
Yep.
Where me and Jess and our tamariki
Yep.
have a nice, comfortable home.
Yep.
It's warm and dry and
Yep.
all that sort of stuff. Next to that, as in, I can walk out the door in my pajamas and go knock on the door. My parents.
Yep. Mum and dad.
Mum and dad. And on the other side, Jess's parents.
Yep.
And sufficient room for anyone that I think is cool to come
Yep.
and join us if they so wish.
So Danny Watson's gone?
Danny Watson. Interesting. So that, for me, if I was able to magic that today, I would go, that's one of the boxes that I would say that was a success.
How would that make you feel?
It would make me feel proud.
Yeah.
It would make me feel safe.
Yeah.
And it would make me feel happy in that my tamariki get to spend time with the people that I think are going to be some of their best teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So, and probably a whole bunch of other stuff. But mostly it would make me feel happy and grateful and proud.
Okay. And how do you, and safe?
And safe.
That's
safe,
an interesting one.
Yeah. Safe maybe isn't the right word. Whatever the opposite of scared is.
Yeah. Secure?
Secure. Secure is probably a better word, because when we were going through periods of time where the money wasn't there and it wasn't guaranteed, it felt very scary.
How far away are you from doing this, being able to do this?
Time-wise or money-wise?
Money-wise.
Like
you're halfway there?
Yeah. Well, yes. It just depends how we choose to get there, because if we sold everything up,
you could do it.
We could do it, but then we'd have another problem.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I have this arbitrary number in mind.
Yep.
Of in today's money, I reckon it will cost about $5 million.
Yep.
In liquid cash to be able to do that.
Yeah.
In today's money, the longer we leave it, the more expensive it gets.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
But then you're building cash flow in order to be able to do it.
That's right.
And that produces a whole lot of other things. So you're right. You could sell up and probably do it, and if you lived in the sticks, you could probably do it. And
exactly.
There's a whole lot of things that you could give up to.
Totally. You're absolutely right. So look, I think we need to build probably a $50 million business as far as revenue goes, top line revenue, in order for, roughly $5 million to fall out the bottom.
What do you feel proud of right now?
I'm proud of my whānau.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of the relationship that Jess and I have built, and the relationship that we have with each other. I'm proud of my tamariki. I think they're really awesome humans, and they represent our whānau values really, really well.
Yeah.
I'm proud of the business that we've built, because when I look around and I walk around, I engage with our kaimahi, they tell me that they're happy. They look and act as if they're enjoying their work, which I'm really proud of. I'm proud that we have roughly 70 kaimahi, and that's 70 tables that we're helping to put food on. They're doing all the work, but we're kind of facilitating that. So I'm proud of all of that stuff.
When it comes down to security, what makes you feel secure now?
So, what makes me feel secure? When I suppose when Jess tells me you're enough, like you don't have to do any more. Like I'm really, really happy. Like she said to me, I'll live under a bridge with you.
Yes.
Like there's something quite nice about knowing that if we go to zero, she's still going to be there.
I remember saying to Steve the same thing. I said, as long as we've got a camper van to live in, we'll be fine. I just want to be with you. Whatever roof you're under, I'm there with you.
Yeah.
That's our role. The game that you play is that you're playing a game in order to build this, and it reduces your security because you're playing the game, the business game.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And your desire to build this, you're also it gives you less security because there's more at risk.
Yeah.
So constantly there's this end that I reckon you should play with. First of all, I'd find a way where you believe you're enough without Jess having to tell you. I love that she tells you, but I'd like you to find that within yourself.
Yeah.
I'd like you to find that calm within yourself. And here's the thing that I would say is, if I was you, because I have this sense of who you are and what you want, is I would practice understanding with every cell in my body that this was going to happen. It was just a matter of playing the game to get there.
As in what I've just told you is going to happen.
It is going to happen. I can feel it. I can see it. I'm having a cup of tea there. It's no problem. And so, when we talk about money mindset, I think it's the same thing. When you know what you want and why you want it, like we can go deeper on this. There's some deeper stuff here as to why you want that. But what I would play with is the fact that it is going to happen, and if it doesn't matter. Because you could buy a piece of land and put 4 caravans on it and you'd have the same thing. So I would play with that so that you can enjoy the game that you're choosing to play at this point in time.
Well, I can pay you for the deeper stuff. We can.
But
that sounds like a coaching session.
But everything's coaching. Do you know, I mean, this is, I've always wanted humans to be better. Any human I've met, mostly, I've wanted to do better than me. So any information I have, to me, is just wanting to impart that if I feel that it's right. You know how we talk about our greatest strength is our greatest weakness?
Yep.
My greatest weakness growing up was wanting to live everyone else's life for them because I could do a better job, because I could see what was going to happen. It was something my poor sister had to explain to me one day. Di, I'm okay at living my own life. I'm like, are you sure?
Are you sure? Because I've got some advice for you.
Exactly. And so it was the best coaching advice. Now I just believe that everyone else is better at doing everything else. And my job is to simply sow a seed. It's just and it's none of my business. I might have flicked over a couple of seeds, you've flicked some back. It's my job to pick up yours if I want to.
Yeah.
And sow them if I want to. And it's none of my business what you do with your seeds that I gave you or I offered. And if you pick them up, that's your business. If you don't, none of my business.
Amazing. Looking at the time, I've already taken so much of it. So we might leave it there, eh? Thank you, Di, for being an amazing guest. You're such a cool person. I always love sitting down.
I am cool.
And I love that you know it. No, I really enjoy sitting down and talking to you. It's always really interesting. And at the beginning of this conversation, I said, I don't know what we're going to talk about today. Let's just see where it goes. And I probably couldn't have predicted any of that.
Yeah, great.
But I enjoyed it. I loved it. So thank you. Thank you for being such a cool person. Thank you for one of the things I really admire about you, and I'm going to go away and try and practice this, is your ability to, you talked about being present today, but to just let whatever is happening inside just come up.
Yep.
And if that means smiling, if it means crying, if it means just being really vulnerable, you just let it happen. So, and I love that.
I'm going to give you just a little bit of context around this.
Okay.
What is triggered in us is unresolved. So if I'm triggered by something, it's because there's something that's happened in my past that I'm unresolved about. So it is very difficult to trigger me because I have done so much work on my past. And literally, I can't change the events, but I can change the story that I've told myself about them. And I can change my thoughts, and I can change my beliefs, and I change my actions. That's the game that we play. So what I would say is if you look at your life and you say, I am consistently triggered by this thing, it is because there is something in you that's unresolved. And if there's just one, if you want to feel prouder of yourself, if you want to feel more secure, if you want to feel happier, then go resolve the things in your past that are triggering you today. Possibly time to move on. I'm constantly looking at the reaction within me to know where my next piece of work is.
I love it. I've really enjoyed our chat today.
Same.
Thank you.
You're a blessing.
Thank you, Di. Thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. And I look forward, off camera, to sitting down again with you and actually working through some of this stuff, because I think there's a lot there to be learned, and I'm trying to be better. So thank you for scratching that itch and giving me probably the nudge that I needed to actually lean into some of this stuff and learn a little bit more about it.
And Yoda says we don't try, we either do or do not. So you're not trying to be better, you just are being better.
I like it. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Have a good day.